Let's use this play right off the bat, just jumping into an example of a play that Robinson does really well, and this is what he will bring to the Jets offense. Because again, Jets offense, if you don't watch them a lot, very much the Shanahan scheme. Okay, so you know how those running backs operate, right? A lot of speed and a lot of shiftiness, which is, that's what you want for every running back. But, Robinson's definitely someone who I think has a bit of a reputation of also being someone who can run with power at times, which tends to be less important at the running back position in this kind of scheme, but I think that he will fit in perfectly with this system. So first, I'm highlighting a very specific block. You have, the edge rusher right here is going to be going up against a wide receiver. The idea is the wide receiver, Zay Jones, can kind of blindside him a little bit, get him out of position, but as you see, it's not really working out too well. It worked out okay. Listen, not the worst block in the world, but Robinson's going to have to do some work here. He is going to have to get past that edge rusher if this is going to be a good play. He's going to have the speed and the shiftiness to be able to pull this off. As you see, that's exactly what he does. He is able to run down the sideline and pick up a first down on that play. Good chunk play from Robinson. And these are the kind of things that he will be able to do in the Jets offense. The Jets offense loves to have their running backs run these types of plays. He will be able to do that, in my opinion, which is part of why I think this is actually a great fit. If we look at his Pro Football Focus grades from the past 3 seasons, and this is also saying where he ranked among eligible running backs each of the past 3 years. This year, he's been 40th. Last year was 37th, and the year before was 30th. So that's pretty good. He's a starting caliber running back in, basically every single one of these years. PFF has him slightly below it these past couple years, but still, that's valuable. And James Robinson is actually kind of a perfect case study in my argument, which is you don't have to spend a ton of assets to get a good running back. Good running backs matter, but sometimes you can get one by trading with, the Jaguars and only having to give up a 5th round pick. It's a 5th round pick that would be a 6th if Robinson does not get 600 yards. I think he will get 600 yards unless he's hurt. So basically, it's a 5th round pick unless it's an injury, then it's a 6th round pick. That's kind of the way I view it. And to me, this is much better value to get a player who will absolutely work in this offense. Let's talk about what he did so well in the Jaguars offense. So first, let's start off with this play. I guess not starting off with this play. I already showed you a play, but let's continue on with this play where you see the blocking concept on your screen. It's going to be a run to the right, going to try to get in between the, it's in the area of the guard. It's actually going to be in between the guard and the center, even though I have on the screen in between the tackle and the guard, because you'll see why in a second. Look, as you see, the guard does a double team, then gets up to block someone at the second level. The gap that appears to be the most open is in between the center and the guard, also known as the A gap. So that's where Robinson is trying to run through. As you see, Robinson does squeeze through it and is able to pick up a decent amount of yards. Again, nothing crazy, but he just kind of put his head down and was able to pick up as many yards as possible. So he can do the simple stuff, right? He can do the average running back stuff that you want to see a running back do. He's not going to, waste a hole to run through. If the offensive line can generate a hole for Robinson to run through, he will run through those, which, listen, that's oftentimes all you need. A lot of times in the running game, it is the offensive line that does the job, so you just need him to do that. But then let's go over to something like this, which is very much a great play from James Robinson, where what's going to happen on this play is it's kind of set up as though it's going to be a run to the right. You see that there's a guard pulling from the left to the right. Almost always when you have someone pull from one direction to the other, it's because you're running in that direction. Sometimes a running back might see something and adjust on their own and run in a different direction. But I believe this is actually a designed run to the left, and they're just trying to fake the Chargers. Because look how when Robinson does get the snap, it looks like there was actually an unblocked player pretty close to the right. They just had the pulling guard to kind of fool the Chargers, and it's relatively working out, but there is a Chargers player who is rushing in and trying to make a tackle on Robinson. Now, he has to move quickly because you also have a wide receiver who can come over and block him, so there's definitely a bit of a he has to move quickly mentality here, and Robinson, who can shift very well, is going to take advantage of that. Watch him instead run all the way from the, to the left side of the screen. He's able to get by several Chargers players and pick up a decent gain. The ball comes out at the end there. I believe he was already down. Doesn't matter. Ball went out of bounds, but still an interesting play. But again, that shiftiness and that speed, the explosiveness. I mean, one of the things that Robinson always has had so well is his acceleration, which is acceleration, maybe not the number one thing people think about when you talk about running backs, but it maybe should be, or at least it should be one of the main things we think about, because it really is so important. It's not necessarily what's your top speed, what's your 40 time, but how quickly do you get to your top speed. And Robinson gets to his top speed very quickly and then can move very well while at that top speed, and that will really work out in this offense. Something like this is another good example where it's going to be a rush to the left side of the screen. So that's how this play is going to work out. Just showing a couple of blocks here, the tight end and the tackle. They're actually leaving the edge rusher unblocked despite it being a run to the left. So kind of a bit of a clever concept. Again, Doug Peterson doesn't just run simple running concepts. He gets very creative. Hey, the Jets also get creative with their running concepts. So should be interesting. But watch how Lawrence is going to give the ball to Robinson. At this point, there's an edge rusher who is unblocked in this scenario. So Robinson's going to have to be able to accelerate past him. And that's exactly what he does. He accelerates past him and then is just able to go and picks up, again, a big chunk play. He is someone who can get good running plays. These are kind of plays designed with, by a team that feels like they have a good running back. They're designing it because they feel Robinson can play. They're designing it around him. So again, bit of a question mark as to why they gave up Robinson for such a little amount of value. I guess they just feel like it's a running back. You have ETN. It doesn't matter that much, which is maybe fair, but I don't know. I feel like I would have at least wanted like a 4 out of that scenario. That feels better to me. But anyways, one last play, even something like this where, listen, it's not all about yards per carry. Listen, when I evaluate a running back, I really don't even look at yards per carry. That's not something that I think is, a super great stat to evaluate how good a running back is. It's great to evaluate how good a running game is, but the stat itself, that's kind of where things get a little tricky here. And this play is a good example of why it can sometimes be misleading. And, Robinson, 4.2 yards per carry is fine, but I think he has played better than that. And I'm highlighting a Charger player because he's going to be the key guy to watch here. Look at how when this play begins, you see him run straight through. Again, this looked to be designed, but I'm not sure why, because now you have Robinson in massive trouble. However, as you see, Robinson makes a move and is able to still get back to the line of scrimmage, gain a couple of yards. So this on the stat sheet was a bad play from Robinson. He only gained a couple of yards. But in reality, it was actually a very good play from James Robinson. He was able to gain way more yards than the average player would have been able to gain there, and that is the goal. The value between losing a couple of yards and gaining a couple of yards is a lot more valuable than just losing a couple of yards in general, the way the stat sheet might suggest. So I like James Robinson. I think I like him more than PFF does. I'd have him above the 40th rated running back personally, and I don't hate this move either. Again, the Jets feel like they're competitive right now. When I first saw this trade, I'm like, I don't know if I want to give up a ton of value when I feel like they're still a year away, in my opinion. I don't know if they're quite ready now to be competing for a Super Bowl, but they do feel like they're competitive, and they do feel like they're at least a playoff team, and making sure that they have a competent running game, which, their offense is very much built around the running game. I do understand the logic behind it. I don't hate giving up a 5th round pick here because it feels, if it feels late for me, imagine how late it feels for people who actually value running backs. Because I didn't love them drafting a running back in round 2, even though I loved Breece Hall, just because I don't love spending that much on a running back. 5th rounder, though, is a lot more palatable for me, especially when your team is, your team is competitive, whereas they, heading into the season, they didn't know if they'd be competitive or not, but now they know they're competitive. Why not keep it going a little bit? And again, not giving up too much. Don't love the trade from Jacksonville's perspective. I don't hate it either. I get it, but I think it's fine. It doesn't really change my opinion too much on them, but just kind of I don't know, why did you have to do this? You didn't have to get rid of him, and maybe you could have gotten more from another team that feels like, teams value running backs heavily, so it feels like they could have gotten more value, but I don't know. He was also undrafted, and teams do pay attention to that stuff, even though they probably shouldn't. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.